Good evening and welcome to the Psychic Golf Shop. I'm Knight, and of course, with tonight is Techie Joe. How are you, darling?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you this evening?
Doing well, doing well.
Awesome.
Getting a lot of legal news and a lot, because every decision within this industry changes things a lot.
It does.
It
Or
does.
it can. It can. Some decisions, yeah. They are a big deal. Yeah, finally found my lighter. I was like, which pocket is it in? So yeah, no, you definitely got a big one.
Yes.
Though I don't know that it changes the industry. I think everything was pretty much well understood before it happened.
Well, I thought so, but there's those old school ones that balance this out and know exactly what we're doing, and then there's these new school ones that are like, all I can say is God has helped you and may you get good legal bills.
Hey, So yeah. So that's the TikTok psychic and a professor are facing off over an outrageous true crime conspiracy. The Texas Tarot Card Reader's outrageous claim has resulted in months of legal proceedings in federal court and a wild attempt to countersue.
Like, she tried suing everybody but the Baptist church.
She tried getting anyone else to take responsibility but herself.
Right.
Because she really doesn't seem to understand the concept of defamation.
Mm-hmm. Well, she didn't understand what four cease and desist letters meant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's usually a good time for you to contact an attorney and find out, do I really have to do that?
Do I really have to shut up?
Most of the time, unless you have a really good case. Yes, you do. Yes.
Okay, especially when, I don't know, the police department comes on and says, this person has nothing to do with this case. Shut up. Her lawyer is telling you to shut up. How many ways do you need to get told? Shut up.
I mean, there comes a point that I appreciate your dogged determination,
right,
to expose the truth, and I put that in air quotes.
Right.
There is a point in which you do have to, one, just cut your losses and run. And go, look, this is beyond me. So even if you are trying to tell a truth, but more to the point is understanding what a truth is.
Right.
Like, this is a factual thing.
Right.
This is a provable thing.
Right.
You're unfortunately a tarot card reading or your psychic intuition on its own is not
admissible in court.
I mean, otherwise court cases would get a lot more interesting.
Well, they would, but oh my God, granted, she done some good defense work. Thanks to ChatGPT, of course, I think they could have provided a better defense on this. But, she tried to use freedom of speech, religious freedom, and it's like, no, none of those apply.
Not like that, no.
No. She tried to subpoena records of, this woman's social media, and it's like, no, you don't get that.
Generally, no.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure she had some choice words for you.
Yeah.
But regardless, it sounds like that was a fishing expedition to try to prove she planned this.
Well, and I want to say the judge gave great lenience. There's a few things she attempted to do, and it's just like, no. That's not how this is done.
Would be highly inappropriate.
Right.
No.
My problem with her was she released a video reading in a court document, not under seal, of another client.
I really hope signed a waiver.
Huh?
That I really hope signed a waiver.
No.
That's what I keep thinking is if they signed a waiver, that's wasn't the best way to handle it. But okay, cool.
Like, I don't even keep that level of documentation. Like, you order a video reading, you get the video reading. Yes, it's a private YouTube link. It has 60 days and then it goes away.
And that's mostly just to ensure that you got it, to prove that you made it within the window for them to be like, I didn't get it.
And it's like, yeah, you did.
Here it is.
But but like, no, it's gone. It's off my channel. No, it's not able to be found. It's never that way. I would never submit. Of course, at most, it's like, yeah, this person had a reading on this date. That's all I can tell you. And that's in the court's opinion because I don't keep any other records. It's like every system I'm on has a place for you to keep notes on your clients. I don't use that. I want you to have a fresh reading every time.
Well, and it can, I mean, I can understand where it might be helpful if it's like, just trying to imagine using it. And like, okay, if there's specific, like if someone just goes off the rails
right
on one topic, like they're an otherwise great client, but there's this one topic you don't ever bring up,
right?
Because that's not going to go well.
Right.
I would see putting that in the notes, but otherwise, like, I think that's just going to slow you down.
Yeah.
Because if you're trying to start a reading, read the question, read the notes,
shuffle the cards, get the guide in line.
Like, I could see having a note that's like, do not mention father. You know what I mean? Like, that's a no-go, no-starter. Like, this call will get ugly.
Right. Well, again, why would you do that? Like, I don't, unless they're asking, why would I bring up the father?
Well, but again, if it were, just even an analogy. Oh, it's sort of like when, like fathers take their dog. No, don't bring it up.
Right.
Like, and I'm talking about someone who significantly has like a one item.
Right.
They're going to go off the rails. This call is going to completely fall apart.
Right. But
like,
I don't even
maybe make a note on. Like, I would see, but that's like a usage I could see.
Right.
Is like, do not mention father at any cost. Like, we don't ever bring up dads in jokes.
Right. Because I don't even take time to look at that because that's a whole nother window I have to bring up, and I'm too busy.
Yeah.
Like,
but
there's 14 different things going on when I get started reading.
Again, I could see it as like minor notes, like great big red flags, like,
right.
But otherwise, and that's if you work clients that have red flags.
Right.
Because I know there are many who are like, if that just means you're not the client for me.
Right.
And that's okay.
Right.
Like,
right.
Best of luck to you.
Right. But, she did challenge like jurisdiction, and it's like, no, because it was received in that area, they had jurisdiction over her.
It was sort of like she pulled out all the stuff.
She pulled everything, argued everything underneath the sun, and it's like, this could have been avoided. It's real easy. One, cease and desist letter. Stop making videos. Delete the videos you currently have. Delete the current saved videos you currently have.
So Brenda's, hi Brenda. And Brenda says, I'd be afraid to write down a red flag since some places allow clients to see their pins.
Well,
that's a big push in it.
Yeah. And see, here's the thing with that. GDP allows clients to pull their records, like even to remove their feedback from the website.
Yep. So yeah, it's generally a bad idea
Right.
to make any kind of inappropriate notation.
Right.
I don't think, and again, using like a red flag item, and I just mean that in terms of like, do not mention father. Don't bring up the economy. Like again, just little tiny
Right.
fragments. Like I would think someone would have a fair. I would hope that most people would be self-aware enough to read that and be like, "Oh, okay, that tracks."
Right.
Like that seems reasonable.
Right.
That like I have a father issue. I have a political.
Right. But no, I'm not even. One, I don't have time because it's like, okay, yes, he's calling, right? Current boyfriend's calling her back.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I know psychics to do this, and I'm like, why? Like, I visited a friend psychic of mine one time back in the old days, and they had freaking notebooks in a bookcase. Like those single 70-cent spiral notebooks of every day they've ever worked because they've took notes on every client. And I'm like, no.
Like, is there perhaps a benefit if you're new?
No.
Okay. I was just curious if maybe that some of that comes out of like newbie training. Because there is, like, if for new readers, for brand new, shiny, just off the boat,
right.
Readers, there is a whole process of like, writing down your readings and your interpretation and your, and documenting it. And I'm wondering if it just kind of like veers from there.
I don't know.
Like the thing you need to get the certificate.
Right. I don't, not to get the certificate, but I don't get where the need is for them to keep notes on their clients or detailed notes on their clients. At most, I kept birth dates and I could send birthday cards, but I don't even do that anymore. Because for me, that's a security and a privacy risk.
Well, yeah, it would take a while.
It's like...
It'd take a while.
Right. Well, this is 20, 30 years ago when we didn't have to worry about data being leaked. And some of the level of readings that I do, hell no.
Yeah. Well, and it's, I think, more appreciable now. Like, it's a nice gesture to send people thank yous and Christmas cards and all of that, birthday cards, etc. But I think it also is one of those things that I don't know that people are quite expecting it as much from companies anymore.
Right.
And for most, it's just kind of like, oh, thanks.
Right.
Like you get an annual like birthday message from our optometrist.
Well, true. Now, I do still send Christmas cards to my private clients. I've always done that. That's, just, it's innate in me. I mean, because, some of these private clients I've had for 30 years. By now, we should be on each other's Christmas card list and having dinner twice a week if it was a normal friendship.
Yeah, but for network, it's also made harder by the fact that you would have to literally have them tell you.
Right. Which they're required to. But they're not required to give me the address. They're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, it's what I want to clarify is the date of birth you need.
Right.
The address is like, that's a billing system item you can't see.
Right.
So, FYI, your reader does not have your address.
Yes. FYI, your reader doesn't even try that shit. Yeah. FYI. Or shouldn't. Especially
sending through the system.
Yeah.
Like a Christmas message or whatever with the double blind on.
Right.
That's not so bad.
That's not so bad. But some of it is just like insane. Literally loads of insanity. That I ain't doing. I am not doing it. No. If you want a duplicate reading from the last thing you told me, go back and read your transcript.
Yeah. I mean, it just, like, I don't know. I think there might be an idea that you could, like, potentially CRM it to a point that you bring up things from previous readings.
Right.
And make someone feel like a bigger connection. But it's kind of like, do you want that?
Right.
Like, do you want that?
Well, an example of this, and an example of it being like, really, I have clients on network that I've talked to for, started 2005, it's 2024. Do your own math. Do I really want to bring up their boyfriend from college?
No. Probably a bad idea.
Especially just to extend the reading. And that's what I find like the tactics are. It doesn't save the client money.
Nope.
It doesn't aid the client into getting a better reading.
No. It's a reading extender.
Right.
Like, I mean, if you use it, I think the way it's intended.
Right.
Which is to plop notes down, to have things to, like, pull up. Oh,
right.
Did you want me to look at John?
Right.
Or
how'd the date go? Yeah. Well, you're going to tell me how the date went before I even get to that question.
Well, and that's if we're talking within a week or so. Like, I'm sure by 3 months for some of your clients is like, which date?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I've been on 100 dates.
Exactly. And, the other part of that is it's like, I don't know who they got to design the CRM system because they act like we have 25 clients when I'm right at now 40,000.
Not an uncommon thing, freakishly, is that a fair number of like IT-based systems, that when you just dump them on coders,
right,
it's not that they design poorly. That's not really it. It's more so they don't understand the use case.
Right.
Like they don't have the relevant understanding of that's not feasible.
Right.
Like I can't take 20 calls in a night and read through all this. And see all this and know all this and do all this. Like it's not feasible. Can you try to work some things in? Sure. But
well, one of the suggestions they sent out, I don't know, 2 regimes ago, because we've changed regimes and changed people, was like send follow-up notes, including notes from your reading.
No.
We'll not do that. I don't know who's reading their email. I don't know what level of privacy they have in their home or to the account.
Yeah, it's already like, granted, they agreed to receive, and they have the ability to block or unsubscribe, I'm sure, or delete the account, whatever. But like it's enough that like thanks for your reading, and like that's enough.
Yeah.
Like you like otherwise it just
it gets, I'm sorry, it's no thank you. It's like,
I mean, and what happens when you send some guy like, I hope you had a really great date with Katie, and Sarah, the girlfriend, reads it.
Well, even worse than that, if we're dealing with someone that, we're assisting get out of a situation, and we've discussed this.
Hope you made it to the homeless shelter, or to the domestic violence shelter.
So glad that, you made it to your aunt's 3 states away.
Yeah.
And he's already cracked, because I'm sorry. I've had exes do this. You've had exes do this. The first thing they do is crack the email.
Well, I mean, it does happen. But and it's not even sometimes actually like if you like in that situation where if you have to leave in the middle of the night,
Right.
you might not be able to take everything.
Right.
You may not want to take everything. Like you may want to leave that cell phone behind if
Right.
it is trackable.
Right.
So in that regard, it kind of becomes, are you going to have time to sit there and do all the things?
Right.
Like log yourself out of every single account on every single device.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not feasible. Not feasible.
Yeah.
And just a bad idea. And even in the situation, like I was giving the example of like Katie being read by Sarah, that could be a miss key.
Yeah.
That could be a former girlfriend that you inadvertently still had notes on.
Right.
And, there's nothing untoward happening. But the current girlfriend reads that email.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Someone's not calling you back.
Oh, they're calling me back to blast the living fuck out of me.
Yeah, my girlfriend read that email. Thanks so much.
Yeah. So, no, I'm not doing personal, detailed information about the reading we just had. Sorry. It's too much of a security risk. But furthermore, for her to continue to do, one is a criminal case, so she should have never released any of this except to authorities. But two, she got not only one, not two, not just three, 4 cease and desist letters.
Well, and I think there's a clarity there to be made for, like, social media is great for social issues, not legal ones.
Right.
Not criminal ones. Like, using your social media to go after someone criminally or legally, or in a situation that would otherwise be a legal situation, don't do it.
Yeah.
Like, just don't do it. Like, no.
Like, the ethical, like, I really wish this judge could rule that she is never to read again for anyone. Like, she is not even allowed to predict the weather.
Yeah.
Without being
Although
fined.
I find it interesting, of all the defenses she mounted, I don't think she did one for the professor was a public figure. And basically invited public discourse.
She tried that.
Oh, was that actually in there? Sorry.
Yeah.
Like, she threw everything.
Try again. You made her a public figure.
Yeah, she wasn't. Well, but see, now I think that one could be at least of the arguments she made, a valid, like at least a reasonable argument.
Right.
Maybe not valid, but reasonable.
Right.
That, like, well, she's a college professor and she's, a published academic, I'm sure. So.
Right. That one could have been useful, but wasn't.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that one would have weighed better than, well, I saw it because I'm a spiritual witness.
Okay, that's not really how this works.
Yeah, that's unfounded.
Like, it's adorable. You think that's how this works.
Right.
That is not.
Or why do you think this tarot card said so?
I mean, it's one of those moments of, like, you can personally believe that.
Yeah.
And that's fine for you as an individual to personally believe. And argumentatively, if you want to talk to your friends about your half-baked idea that this college professor did that, that would be within the realm of reason.
Right. Or do what's proper. Right. You call up the FBI and you make the report and you hang up the phone.
You did all the things. You're done.
You're done. Do not take this to social media. Do not violate this person's privacy, the death threats this woman received. Insane.
Hey, Devin.
Insane. Hello, Devin.
Oh, yeah. It is. They're like, so yeah. So anyway, moving on with this story. So she's been found guilty of all charges.
Liable.
For all
Yeah.
Excuse
This
me, I
is
forget it was civil.
Yeah.
Well, civil.
Yeah.
But yeah, so criminal, not criminally liable, civilly liable. I'll get it out correctly in a minute.
Right.
But yeah, for the claims that she made that were unfounded.
Right. Now the only thing the jury has to find is how much she owes.
Something tells me they're gonna have fun with that number.
Right. But now they've also come up to punitive damages. Not only how much have you cost the professor in legal fees, defending her name, all this other stuff, and what you made off of this, because hello, she made money off of this because these were monetized lives, monetized YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so, of course, the professor could call that money. And, the clout circus was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Now she can actually claim emotional damage and punitive damages. How much did this cost your reputation as a college professor? Because it wasn't just, that the professor killed him. It was the professor had an inappropriate relationship with one of the students, planned a murder, and had, this dude do it.
Mm-hmm.
They have verified that she's never taught any of them, didn't even know they existed on the planet until everyone else did.
Happened to be a student at the same college.
Right. That's all.
That's a tangential connection at best.
Right.
Like you could potentially, I'm not saying it wouldn't be worth looking into.
Right.
Like, you call the police, you call the FBI, you call the Peoples.
Right.
I think it's a lead worth checking.
Right.
And then once you figure out, okay, that doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
Then you're done.
Right.
And
believe me, I understand psychic conviction. That's one thing. Mm-hmm. This is the 10th degree.
Well,
this is when you're no longer the messenger. You are now the prosecutor.
Yeah. Well, and it's going beyond just being convinced of something.
And beyond your scope of practice.
Yeah. Like, you're not here to be judge, jury, and executioner.
Right.
Like, you did a reading.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming you're a decent reader and that's what you came up with, and that's the thing.
Right. And I'm going to say this, and I am not being judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
But I've watched some of her lives from court proceedings.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Anna could be a better reader.
Okay.
Well, broken clock is right twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't like her style. I think that she does a lot of flash and glare and a lot of bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're going to be a professional reader, at least know what your tools mean.
Always helpful. Always helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, is it just that there's... I mean, I want to go with how much of this is like a glut. Like, there's a hole in a void being filled by, TikTok this and TikTok that and TikTok this other thing, but TikTok psychic. Is there just a lack of people?
No.
Or is it that I'm trying to choose my words carefully. Or is it that we are just so attached to the drama bus?
I think we're so attached to the drama bus. I think, and like today, I just hit 1,000 followers. I've got to learn to say followers, not subscribers. So I'm used to YouTube over there. And yes, I will be doing lives and doing free questions. I believe that's on Thursday. I'll double check the calendar. It's either Wednesday or Thursday. I'm going to go in for 30 minutes to an hour. Like, I'm not going to be on there 5 hours like I have seen.
Oh, no, that sounds like no.
Yeah.
That's horrible. Ugh.
Right.
That is the live that never ends. But yeah. So it looks like we have the beginning of a question.
Okay.
I know we need a date of birth, month, day, and year.
Right.
Avi.
A.B. Morgan.
But I'm not really seeing the question.
Right.
So I don't know if maybe part of it didn't come through or what the deal is. But hi, we're here. Just get us the relevant pieces, the date of birth, and the
information.
Actual question.
Right. So I'm going to learn how to use that tool and how to work work the live. Like, I've done a couple, but I wasn't happy with them because, like, I don't know. I may end up having to run it on the computer. Maybe I will be happier with it then. Like, there's these things that pop up on the screen and, you know, goals to set and there's all this fun stuff, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a new platform.
Too much on a phone.
It's too much on a phone for an old man. Like, come on, wear glasses to work now. Yes. But, you know, within this, however, there comes a line and a limit and a boundary and ethical decisions. And I was talking with Emily D. Baker about this. Like, this should have never gone this far. And I really wish we had, like, the lawyers have the bar, which I don't know what it stands for, but every state has a bar. I really wish we had a psychic bar.
Or a psychic association that goes, oh, no, you're not qualified. This is inappropriate.
This is inappropriate. This is a violation of, because there's a lot of, like, privacy laws that we have to cover. A lot of things like, I can't do legal. I can't do medical. I'm not diagnosing anyone. I'm not going to say so because, you know, you're having an earache. You need to go and have someone blow smoke in your ear. Go find you a good smoker and have them just pack your ear for tobacco smoke. I can't.
Yeah, maybe. That's medical advice.
Right.
But yeah, I just get curious if that becomes more of an impediment than a functionally useful tool. What I mean is, we've already seen on the networks, like, the negative impact that being able to report advisors.
Right.
And the ability to leave negative feedback.
Right.
We've already seen that abused.
Well, we know that when we see the abuse the advisors put the network through. Sorry. Mm-hmm. You know, some of us come to run a business, some of us come to bitch.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is having the ability to report someone to a bar.
Right.
Or an association.
Right.
For tarot readers, I would worry about that being more misused than actually beneficially used.
Well, I don't think that it would, and here's why: is because it's going to have the same levity as being, you know, a lawyer is reported for, and it would be have to be investigated. Like, it's just not like, oh, let's 1-star the hell out of him because, you know, he's taking my customers. Like, no, they'd have to be a viable, verifiable client.
Okay. Well, but I also see what happens on the network even when someone is a legitimate verifiable.
Right.
And it so often comes down to, well, it's he said, she said, and we believe the client.
Right.
At least far enough to be like, smack you on the wrist, don't do that again.
Right. But no, this psychic should never be allowed to read again. Anything. A fortune cookie. No.
Yeah.
And it's because she has took this poor person, plucked them off a website, and destroyed their life. Like, these are and this is the stuff that, we as psychics do every day, which is a reading, and we have to understand the responsibility that we take on when we do readings. And I'm not talking about the spiritual higher level responsibility, the mantle of a reader, or the metaphysical mystical traveler. That's one thing. I'm talking about real life choices and decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And no, we're not God, unlike her name, which I don't. Be careful of anyone that puts the God in their name.
Yeah, probably. Like, I appreciate the empowerment, like self-affirmation mode.
Right.
I do appreciate it.
Right.
Yeah, it probably might not be the best thing to use for your outwardly visible.
Right.
Life.
Please tell me she's not back up on TikTok.
Very likely.
Well, the account has been moved to private.
Okay. So it sounds like she might have at least begun to understand she's made mistakes.
No, either that or she's covering her tracks.
Yeah. Well, that is a possibility. Like, if it's still functional but private.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay, there's a lot of like response and like snitching of this, but she's not got anything out there.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing.
Right.
Yeah. I'm there.
Yeah. All right. So let's move over to something not psychic news, but it's like, zombie apocalypse 2.0.
Well, maybe. So zombie second mortgages are coming to life, threatening thousands of Americans' homes. Oh, so where are we at? So one spring morning 2 years ago, Karen McDonough was having tea at her dining room table. She lives in a cozy little 2-bedroom house in Quincy, Massachusetts. She looked out her window and saw something unusual. There were like 20 cars, and they all came at the same time, and they parked in front of my house, across the street, up the street, McDonough said. I just had this feeling like something really bad had happened, like maybe somebody in the neighborhood died. Something bad was definitely happening to her. McDonough put on her shoes, went out to the driveway, and approached a group of men, casually dressed, milling around on the lawn. One had a clipboard and seemed to be in charge. He had a piece of paper, and I said, "What's happening?" And he goes, "We're selling your house." It was a foreclosure auction on her home. This seemed impossible. McDonough had owned her house for 17 years. She's a registered nurse who worked at the prestigious Massachusetts General Hospital for decades and makes a good living. She raised 2 kids in the house and pays her mortgage every month. But back after the housing crash in 2008, like millions of other Americans, McDonough had asked for a modification of the mortgage. Back then, she says her mortgage company told her a second mortgage she had on the house was forgiven as part of the modification. And she said that seemed to be true. She stopped getting any statements for more than 10 years. More recently, though, she'd been getting phone calls demanding money. She thought it must be some kind of scam. But now these men on her lawn were telling her, this is a foreclosure. You are going to lose this house, McDonough said. McDonough had fallen victim to what's called a zombie second mortgage. Homeowners think these loans are long dead, but then the loans come back to life because they get bought up, sometimes for pennies on the dollar, by debt collectors. These companies often tack on a mountain of retroactive interest and fees, even though that can be legally dubious in some cases, and then move to collect and foreclose on people's homes. I do want to make a correction to this article. What they're actually talking about is not debt collectors, debt buyers.
Right.
Those are two very different things that sometimes get conflated.
Right.
So an NPR investigation found that the practice is widespread. NPR looked at foreclosure data across several states where records were available. In New York, NPR found at least 10,000 old second mortgages that foreclosure activity had been initiated on in just the past 2 years. Those loans originated back during the subprime lending housing bubble days of 2004 to 2008. In Maryland, where more detailed information was obtainable, NPR found at least 500 old second mortgages that had been in default and unpaid for more than a decade, but now a company has taken the first step toward foreclosure. In other words, more than 500 zombie mortgages in a single state that are now coming back to life as companies file a form with the state indicating they intend to foreclose on the property. Oh, so this is a nightmare. So basically, we sold people their homes with toxic banking products. Then we did modification loans for the ones who didn't get foreclosed out of their houses back in like 2010. And now that was supposed to have cleared the second mortgage. And now it's all coming back to life.
Right. It's insane. Millions of Americans' second mortgages during the housing bubble. That's why you got to be very careful. You want everything in writing from a damn bank.
Well, I don't even know that it matters sometimes. Because realistically, this goes back to the bank and they're carrying some toxic assets still on their ledger.
Right.
So effectively, these get pulled over and bundled out as, and it may even be individually, like just these kinds of loans, or it may be in a whole grab bag of loans.
Right.
And sold off to the highest bidder. Again, pennies on the dollar.
Right.
Like, it's ridiculous.
Right.
Like, I would doubt that if it, like, for instance, it was a $200,000 second mortgage.
Right.
I would doubt the debt buyer paid more than $2,000.
Right.
And that's probably really overestimating.
Right.
Like, and I wonder if these are legitimately being sold accidentally, or if they're really just like, nah, we're going to sell this shit.
Right.
Like, but yeah, so NPR points out the problem comes down to these are legitimate mortgages.
Right.
Like, there are still liens recorded on the properties. And it can make it easy for investors that now own the loans to foreclosure. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that's a total. Like, it's like, how many bites of the apple do you get?
Well, I thought you got one.
Well, I mean, granted, I'm just saying that that's kind of a legal term, and I shouldn't
Right.
use it. But it's kind of like you already sold them one shit product.
Right.
We're pretty much all in agreement. This was shit product. Is what these second mortgages are going to mostly amount to.
Right.
You already sold them one shit product, and then had to like admit that and roll it into a loan modification. But it sounds like it didn't actually roll. Where did, and I keep going back to the bank, that it's got to be a failure at the bank, either on their books or in how they actually wrote the modifications.
Right.
Because fundamentally they told consumers one thing, which is, oh, it was forgiven. You know, like the modification fixes. So did we not hold banks accountable for that in any way? Like, were they just
Well, according
talking out
to
of
the
their
bank,
ass?
there's no record of that.
Oh. But she just didn't bother to collect for a decade?
Right.
I mean, I can understand if you weren't trying to collect during the panini. Like, no one was collecting anything during the panini. But really? You're a bank with potentially hundreds, if not thousands, of these products.
Right.
And you just didn't bother? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that just sounds really... Huh? What? Like, how does this not hit statute of limitations? You made no actual effort to pursue for years. Like, I don't get how that doesn't apply. I mean, granted, debt buyers are not known for being the most
Right.
warm and friendly and, you know, necessarily well versed and skilled and sorry, moments of, because I worked for a debt collections agency
Mm-hmm.
that we ended up being contracted by some debt buyers. And it was the worst experience ever. For us, for them, like, it was horrible across the board. Because what those particular debt buyers had been sold was a get-rich-quick class in which they could go buy up debt for pennies on the dollar. It's always the important phrasing. And then, you know, make a mint. And it's like, okay, so you took your, like, 401k
Mm-hmm.
and you bought up debt, and someone gave you the mistaken impression that you were going to recoup like 100% of that.
Right.
And it's like, oh, sweetheart, that is not how this works. Like, on fresh debt, you're lucky to see a 10% collections rate. 20 is a miracle. And that's when it's like, literally, this is within 6 months. A decade? Generally, that's returned as uncollectible.
Right.
Like, you can't collect this. This is a post statute.
Well, what they're going after is that the bank didn't send them notices for 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, generally speaking, that's considered an abandonment of collection effort.
Right.
Like you're not making the effort to collect.
Right.
And after typically it's 7 years, though I don't
Right.
know specifically on mortgages because we didn't work mortgages.
Right.
And that may be why these are all hitting at once. Because I bet it's one of the weirdo ones. And it's something. Oh. Okay, the statute of limitations for an action to foreclose a mortgage is 6 years.
Right.
So why can't you see the date of the modification? Like, someone's got to be playing.
Right.
As in, you're moving your date somehow.
Right.
Like oh, this is as bad as the robo signing.
Yep.
Like, it should never happen.
Right.
Like, you make no effort to collect a debt for over a decade.
Yeah.
You don't get to turn back up and literally foreclose on someone's home.
Right.
And the only way you should be able to do it, and I mean should in a, like, it really shouldn't work, but argumentatively, is if you start screwing with the dates.
Mm-hmm.
And that the date you got the account or the date you make contact becomes the last paid date.
Right.
And that's cute. Play with that in a court of law. See how fast that comes back to hit you in the face.
Well, it's not, even though it's still playing out in the court of law.
Mm-hmm.
She's been able to keep her home. 300 others were actually paid the amount of their loan from the person that tried to collect their loan.
Mm-hmm. Trying to save their house.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's no telling what they've done to make that happen.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, worst case scenario, potentially, is they just took out a second mortgage to pay off the zombie second mortgage.
No, they were able to keep their home.
Okay.
And then the person that bought the debt had to turn around and pay them back the amount of the mortgage for illegally collecting the debt.
For illegally collecting.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. See, that's what I was thinking, is there's no way to legally collect this.
Yeah.
Like, these would be accounts, granted, we didn't work with mortgages.
Right.
But I could see any debt collections agency worth their salt going, this isn't collectible.
Yeah.
Like, this is just like, why don't you hand me a crowbar and I'll go bust some kneecaps? Like, because that's the level of debt collections you're asking them to do.
Right.
Is, I think you meant to call a mob boss, not a collections agency.
Right.
I mean, things I wish I could have said to clients. But true.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, this is not how you do this. This is not the laws we have. You can't extort some laws.
Yeah, like, as an insider knowledge item, there are some of the laws that are played with fast and loose.
Right.
But actual, like, age of account should never be one of them.
Right.
Because it's so fucking easy to prove.
Right.
And it's just, invariably, anytime you pull the stunt, people are going to get a lawyer.
Right.
Because they're going to get pissed.
Right.
The only time they don't get pissed is if it's a really small balance, like
Right.
under $500, and they're trying to buy a home.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, people will pay anything.
Right.
Like,
And I think what they're doing here is they're counting on the being able to hold a home. You know, anything to keep my home, I'll sacrifice everything, is what they're counting on.
mm-hmm. Either that or being able to just walk it through a court case.
Right.
And like with the lead subject,
Right.
that literally someone just shows up at your house one day.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, this is a foreclosure auction.
Right.
Excuse me, what?
Yeah.
Like, you gotta be kidding me. Because that means that had to go all the way through.
Yeah.
I'm assuming without notification.
Without notification, without serving anything, without notice of a loan, without threatening letters that we will foreclose.
And I mean, it's not like they don't know where she lives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I just want to hear this. One, I don't know how it got through a court the first go around.
Right.
You know, when it got to the point they could do a foreclosure auction.
Right.
I really don't, but I really want to know what the courtroom looked like the second go around.
Right.
When it's like, you lied to this court.
Yeah.
Like, you had to.
It's just insane. And this is why, if the bank says, we're giving you $100 off your mortgage, I need that in writing, please. I need that on official letterhead, please.
I mean, I kind of like the old extortion of buying up delinquent tax properties.
Mm-hmm.
And this actually happened to my parents. When the housing was built, it was built as a structured development.
Mm-hmm.
With like sewer cleanouts and things owned by the developer.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so in the middle of our backyard was literally a sewer cleanout.
Mm-hmm.
It was a triangle piece of property, probably no more than 3 foot by 3 foot. This man came in wanting an easement so he could access his property. So he could put a road to it. And it's like, you have a postage stamp. You don't even have that. You can't even put a flagpole on it. Because you don't have the proper offsets from your property lines. What do you need a road for? But yeah, sued mom and dad and literally had to pay the dude to just go away. Nuisance lawsuit, technically legal. He owned real property. And there was an arguable case, but it was one of those moments like it cost mom and dad a few $1,000s. All because someone quit paying the taxes on a postage stamp of property.
Well, who owned the postage stamp is my question. Like, why was that not even just included in the property?
It was part of the subdevelopment. And so it was supposed to have been held by the developer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the developer died.
Mm-hmm.
No one in the family really took over the business.
Fun.
And let everything lapse. Like, they basically cashed out whatever daddy had.
Right.
And ran away.
Right.
And didn't care about, any of the property or any of the none of it. They just walked away. So it went for back taxes, like all of like a couple dollars.
That's insane. And then he wanted to put a road to it.
But dude cashed out for a couple of dollars worth of back taxes. Dude cashed out thousands.
Insane.
Like a couple of dollars of back taxes and a filing fee at a court,
which is $150.
It was probably less back then. This was back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And he got a check for thousands.
Yeah, this is insane.
Yeah, but it at least makes more sense. You know what I mean? Like a little bit more sense.
Right.
Than trying to do this zombie second mortgage. Like you waited over a decade. Now we're going to try to. What?
Right.
You can't do that.
Right. The insanity, however, on the buying for back taxes is you can buy for back taxes. You can wait 18 months and you own the property. Look at what you're buying.
Yeah. What did you actually buy? But again, this guy knew this, and that was kind of part of the scam. Is it's all ridiculous.
Right.
And just to get him to go away, people will pay money.
That's insane.
And so
I would put up in court and go, "Oh, judge, he wants an easement to this 3-foot piece of property."
Yeah, and basically what happened in that courtroom is he has that right.
He has right.
He doesn't have to have a legitimate reason.
Right.
He just has a right to access his property, and he is currently landlocked.
Right.
So he has a right to an easement and a right to, as idiotic as all, like, because even I think the judge was sitting there like, this is so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like any reasonable person is just sitting here like, this is so fucking stupid. But it's legal. Like it's not harassment. It's not whatever. It's a nuisance lawsuit.
Right.
And it eats up the court's time for no other reason than because you can.
Right.
But yeah, no, it was. Mom and Dad were so mad.
Yeah. Insane.
Understandably. And yeah, we're very careful. Once they owned the property, we're very careful to make sure the taxes got paid.
Right.
Because God forbid.
Well, see, I would have joined the deeds.
I don't know what all happened with that, but I think it was a long, drawn out nightmare.
Right.
And it literally got to a point they couldn't even talk about it. They were just so pissed.
Right. All right. So let's move over to our favorite segment of the night. Are you the asshole?
All right. And thank you for grabbing that one because I had nothing. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
It's been a long day.
Yes.
All right. So, am I the asshole for calling my friend's mom because she is living a real life 90-day fiance? So, in the last few months, my 28 female friend, 27 female, has gone through a lot of change. She broke up with her longtime boyfriend, and her childhood cat had to be put down after a traumatic case of paralysis. I was there to help her through it, and as mean as this sounds, I was getting very emotionally drained from constantly supporting her. I love her, but it was very mentally taxing. 3 weeks ago, she told me, she said she was wanting to meet up with a guy. The guy in question was a 20 male who lived 8 hours away. She met him through PlayStation chat. They've been talking for at least 6 months. When they first started talking, they were both still in relationships. She assured me they were just friends and only started talking romantically after they had both broken up. I never liked him. She said that he would prioritize talking to her over his then girlfriend, didn't have a job, and just stayed home all day playing PlayStation. I told her I thought it was a terrible idea. She said she planned for him to come to her house and stay for the weekend. I suggested they meet halfway as he lives 8 hours away, and she said no. This was 3 weeks ago. He never left. She made up stories about him missing the bus and he was going to leave the next day. She got upset and admitted she had been hiding things from me because she knew I wouldn't approve, and it was all too quick. I met him last night and it went as terribly as expected. Yes, I only met him last night as I didn't even want to meet him at all. He is Indian and doesn't speak English very well. He didn't engage with me at all and just sat on his phone watching TikTok. Her and I were catching up, and I mentioned a recent dating fail and how I was ghosted. He perked up and laughed. He said that he would do that to my friend when they started talking. Treat him mean, keep him keen. He said it was fun to manipulate her because he knew she would be desperate enough to come back to him. I got up and left as I wouldn't have been able to hold back. She confronted me today and we had a huge fight. I told her my concerns, that it's a dangerous situation she has gotten herself into. She laughed and said that I'm overreacting, that it sounds bad when he says things like that, but it's just a joke. She told me that she's enjoying it while it lasts because he will probably be deported soon as his visa is about to expire. She said they were thinking of getting married so he could stay in the country. After that, I called her mom, who knew nothing about this. My friend usually talks to her mom every day and always speaks highly of the advice she gives her. So I called her as I was concerned because I assumed she knew about this, but she didn't, and it didn't end well. My friend has now left me dozens of messages and phone calls cursing me out. Am I the asshole for calling her mom because she plans to marry a man who is just using and manipulating her? Edit, someone called me racist for saying he doesn't speak English well. The context is he is not from this country. He is here on visa. She is taking pity on him and invited him to stay with her. Their communication is limited as she doesn't speak Indian and his English is limited. They have translated conversations through Google Translate. When I pointed out the ghosting, she tried to make excuses of that's how he talks. You don't understand the communication barrier, which was just her trying to make excuses for his bad behavior.
No, you're not. You're not
Not
the
asshole. Not the asshole.
You're protecting your friend.
I think your friend thinks she has like some kind of upper hand in this, or is at least playing that concept to you.
Mm-hmm.
That like, oh, I'm just, letting it be what it is. And it's not going to last long, and then he'll be deported, and, blah, blah, blah. Uh-huh. Why are you talking to him about marriage at all?
Why is he here? Like, I'd get weekend visit. That's cute.
Yeah, cute, fun, enjoy.
At 3 weeks, he's moved in. He's now a resident of the apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Like, this is going downhill quickly. But then it gets into, like, but do you call someone's mom about that?
Yes.
And I have to go with, I think this is a situation where it's like, I wouldn't want to do it. I would probably hold off as long as possible of doing it. But then there's a point, which is basically the point he met her, or they met each other.
Right.
That I think that's the only thing left to do is be like, are you okay with this? And then it'd be like, okay with what?
Right.
Okay, well, this is the situation.
Right. Well, look at the age. It isn't like she's 56. We're not calling the 83-year-old mother.
Yeah, no. Well, I don't even care about the age difference or any of it. It's just, this sounds like a total disaster, and she's just backing herself into it. Just like,
Right.
Hook, line, and sinker, I'm going to destroy my life
Right.
over someone that you met on PlayStation that you have to have Google translated conversation with,
Right.
that you invited for a weekend or not, we're not
Right.
really sure. But you're doing a lot of lying about it.
Right.
Like you don't seem to have the capacity to at least accept that, some people aren't going to appreciate this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay.
Right.
I'm a grown adult. I can make my own choices. You're not sounding like a grown adult who's making her own choices.
Right.
So I think the only thing you can do in that situation is call their mommy.
Yes. Because
be
this
like,
dude is playing on them.
the fuck is this?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Ooh.
I don't believe you're the asshole. I will call your mommy in a moment if I think that you are putting yourself in danger. And I'm sorry, this dude sounds like he's to the beginning of the stages of abuse.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how bad his English is, because it's not that I've never seen that phrasing before.
Right.
The whole, treat him mean, keep him keen.
Yeah.
Like, that's an abuser playbook.
Right.
Item. That's out of the PUA, handbook.
Right.
Of, how you psychologically manipulate people.
Yeah. That's not ethical. Mm-mm.
Oh, Brenda has commentary. Like you wouldn't sick Mama Knight on Aeson if he was doing something this crazy and not listening to reason from you or Invisible. There's a step before Mama Knight.
Uh-huh. It's Mama
Like,
Connie.
we don't automatically do what now?
It's Mama Connie.
Well, even before her.
Oh.
Like, there's a meta here. There's another meta I can call and be like, you deal with this.
Yeah.
Like, you deal with it. I'm like, we're out. We're done. We're gonna kill him, but you deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because he hasn't listened to us.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't come to you for much. Like, because I don't. Like, we don't run to him with everything, but when it's like, okay, we can't get through to him because he has now decided that he is sick and gonna work.
Right.
Like, yeah, no, hi, we're picking up the phone. Like, we've already talked to him. He's not listening, so you take a crack.
Uh-huh.
And usually just the fact that we have called.
Texted and he appears.
At which point it's the, hi, what the hell?
It's like,
And
have
then
you
you're like,
lost your ever-loving mind, boy?
At which point you're like, yeah, I screwed up. Okay, cool.
It's like, oh, fuck. All three of them. Really? You called in the missiles?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we did. Yes.
Yeah.
So even before I jump to that point, but yes, I will. I don't think you do that about everything. I don't think you necessarily do that if someone is acting like an adult, making adult choices.
Yeah, but when they've been scam casted, when this happens, there's another one where they're sending money to a prisoner.
Oh,
Yeah.
God. Can I just say, as an IT person, I really, of all the scams there are, more than even the hi, I'm from Microsoft elderly scams.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely hate the relationship scams.
Right.
Where it's like, I'm going to send you a check and get, because I'm going to have my business manager send you a check and, I just need you to open an account or deposit it or whatever. And for your trouble, you keep some of the money and you send me iTunes cards.
Right.
And it's like, oh my God. Because at the point in which that's occurring, the psychological manipulation up to that to
Right.
get that agreement, you can't get through.
Well,
You just can't even.
we were at Walmart. Now, I'm very, friendly, familiar with the managers there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with this statement. But anyhow, and I'm in self checkout. There's a dude beside me in self checkout. I hear the manager and the assistant just laying it out to this dude, and I'm like, ooh, ouch, oh no.
And the sad reality is, even with that, he probably left that store, drove to another one,
Yeah,
and did it anyway.
he, well, went to one that would sell him $1,500 in Apple iTunes gift cards.
Or he figured out he had to do it like 100 at a time, and he
Mhm.
spent the rest of his night
Right,
just.
right,
And that happens.
right,
Like, it's. And it's so, like,
right.
y'all don't, it is so hard to explain the concepts of what all goes into this. And then even after you have all the evidence in the world
Mm-hmm.
that should convince someone,
Mm-hmm.
you are being used. You
Right.
have been used.
Mm-hmm.
Do you not see all the checks bounce that came in from different people?
Mm-hmm.
Like, none of this makes any sense.
Right.
They are still trying to contact this person, wanting just explain it.
Yeah.
Just to help me, because I can't be wrong about you.
Right.
And they're just laser locked in.
Right.
And and when it finally goes through, the emotional devastation is just unbelievable.
Yeah. And I made a TikTok about this recently. There is no deployed soldiers contacting you. There is no, what's the other one they always pull? Contractor across in another country, and they talk to you for 3 to 5 days, and they'll be home soon, and they just need a little help because their money, their passport, their money, their whatever is, locked up and
I
stabilized
work
or
on a
whatever.
cruise ship was
Yeah.
one that got a friend of mine, and I just tried so hard to stop.
Yeah.
Please stop. Please don't do this.
Right.
And yeah, that was a situation of called someone's mother
Mm-hmm.
and went, all I can do is ask you to try. I don't think you're going to convince her.
Right.
So just know. And it, of course, went south, and it was just layer after layer after layer after layer of lies and half truths and not telling people all the story. And it just unraveled in a week.
Yeah.
They had opened 8 different bank accounts and were cashing checks all over town and spending the money and buying the gift cards and doing all the things and literally lying.
Yeah.
To everyone. And it's just oh my God. I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
Because I told you so is the worst thing in the world to say.
Right.
Just as an FYI. Because that just adds to the emotional damage. And it's literally all you can do is put someone in therapy and hope to God it works, especially crisis therapy.
Yeah.
Because it's a buildup into a world that it's a house of cards and it collapses.
Right.
And it's just earth-shatteringly, mentally destructive, emotionally deranging
Mm-hmm.
when it happens.
Right.
And it's like the implosion that goes on
Mm-hmm.
is just that's a licensed professional. You have to have a licensed professional.
Right. But ASIN's rules is if you do not give a man you can't put your hands on money. Do not open a bank account with a man that doesn't share your bed actively. Ever.
But I mean, the level that these people will go to is just insane.
Right. It's insane. It's uncomfortable. It's unwielding. And it's like, I don't get how they don't get through the karma of it all.
I don't either. Like I don't know how a human being gets to the point that you justify what you have got to eventually learn are the repercussions of what you're doing.
Right.
That all of this is going to fall apart. Someone's going to have an officer knock on their door
Mm-hmm.
because they owe thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Tens of thousands of dollars.
It's insane. So no,
and they're now facing charges.
Yep.
Like because even with the banks trying to be nice, it's still not pretty.
Right. It's very ugly. It's very demeaning, and it's very. So no, I don't think you're the asshole for calling in mama support. All right, let's go over to relationship advice. Poll is up, by the way.
Polls up.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so can we save or fix our relationship? I, 28 female, have been with my boyfriend, best friend, 27 male, for almost 7 years. We had a discussion the other day because I've been seriously thinking of breaking up. We have some issues that will take a lot of time to work on, and I don't know if we should try to work on them together or apart. I also don't know if I'm trying to fix these issues. I also don't know if trying to fix these issues would fix our relationship. One, we've been having some issues with intimacy for a while now that I would want to fix before we think about moving in together or think about marriage. I haven't been in the mood, and I don't think I'm asexual. I think I would like an intimate relationship, but maybe this is something I need to work out and figure out in therapy, which I started doing. Two, I also have some issues in that I need to see him be financially stable or independent and more ambitious with his career. He had trouble in school and figuring out a job. He did give me his game plan for him finishing his certificate and then trying to find a job the other day, which is good. We talked about this the other day, and it sounds weird, but I want to make sure he's doing his career for himself in the long run and not just to keep me. These two issues are things that could be intertwined. But I guess I don't know if we should fight for our relationship or call it quits here. In my head, we have 3 options. 1, break up now. We work on our issues apart, but we may regret not trying. I would like to think we could find our way back to each other, but who knows? 2, we both try for a little bit and then after some time see if it's still not working. At least we tried, but how long do we try for? Or 3, we try, everything gets fixed over time, and we live happily ever after. Best case scenario, obviously. I wish I knew if fixing these problems would fix our relationship, but I don't, and I can't guarantee that. I don't want to waste each other's time, but I also don't want to give up and wonder what could have been. He knows I'm indecisive, anxious, and that's one of the things I would work on for myself, but I don't know if I want to. oh, I don't know if I want to marry him or not, which isn't good after 7 years together. People say when you know, but I'm also someone who is unsure about everything. I always told myself after he graduates, gets a job, and we figure out our intimacy issues, I will start thinking of that, but there have been some difficulties there. I love him dearly. He's been patient with me throughout our whole relationship, and he has said if he wasn't happy with how things were, he would have left. He wants to give us a try and fight for us, but I think most of these issues are on me if I think it would work out or not. Very long, very complicated. I can't include every detail, but I'm so conflicted. Part of me wants to give it a try for the summer and see how we feel afterwards. But honestly, I don't know how much change can happen over that short of time, since what I need to work on, figure out, and what he needs to do are both things that I think will take at least a year or two. P.S. These aren't necessarily new issues. We've been having these issues for a few years. We've briefly talked about them in the past, but we do very seriously try to work on them together now. Oh.
All right. One, you got to figure out what the hell intimacy is, because I'm sorry, what you're talking about here sounds like sex, not intimacy. There's a difference.
Well, I mean, it may be it may be a sexual issue that is then caused by an intimacy issue that is caused from you don't really see him as a stable partner.
Right.
You kind of feel like you're in a relationship with an overgrown child.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of how this is reading.
Yeah.
Like, he hasn't finished school. He doesn't really have a career. You're not really sure about your future. You don't know if he's going to get his act together or not. I could understand having a moment there where it's like, what the fuck?
Right.
Am I just supposed to support us and pick up his underwear? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is this forever?
But at the same time, they're so indecisive about things in this post in itself. It's like someone's got too many checks and balances running.
I think it's one of those. We have this idea that when we leave relationships, it's supposed to be bad enough to leave.
Right.
And typically that's like iconically there's abuse, cheating, something.
Right.
And that's not really where they're at.
Yeah.
It's just like we're 28 and 27 years old, and this feels more like playing house than actually trying to buy one.
True, but at 27, 28, do you really want to be buying a house? No, you want to be learning about yourself. And what I'm hearing out of a lot of this is they're not sure where the intimacy issues are. I think a lot of the intimacy issues tend to be, hi Shannon. Sounds like they're coming from them overthinking, and B, there's a lack of intimacy. And when I say a lack of intimacy, there's a lack of understanding and having mutual understanding of each other's needs, wants, and desires. And she sounds so unsure of her own desires. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that she necessarily sounds all that unsure about them.
Right.
I mean, if you boil it, what it seems like she's trying to say without saying it exactly is like, I don't see a future. I don't see a husband. I don't see an actual boyfriend. I just see this dude that I'm like in a relationship with.
Right.
And I don't see it going anywhere else, and I can't really get into that.
Right.
And I think that's reasonable. I think that's why a lot of people like kind of have a breakup in their mid to late 20s. Is like, this doesn't feel like it's going anywhere.
Right. And that's also when, like, finishing college, starting new jobs, all this starts getting problematical.
Mhm. I mean, I don't think it's uncommon for people to just like do the thing for no other
Right.
reason than to keep the relationship or fulfill like the obligation.
Hmm.
Now, how well that works out over time, because usually it's accompanying a
Right.
pregnancy. And like a lot of people in their 20s
Right.
will be in a relationship, get pregnant, and it's like the real world slammed into them, and it's like, okay, I need a real job,
Right.
I need a real home,
Right.
I need a real car.
Right. But the comment that bothers me the most
Mm-hmm.
is I don't want to waste time. No, you're not wasting time. Okay. Any relationship for any length of time you're in, and believe me, I've been in some bad ones, teach you something. You learn
Like,
something
so,
about yourself.
yeah, regardless of which way you
Right.
go. And sometimes that is better than being like, I give up and walk away and then
Right.
get stuck with the forever of like, well, I wonder how if it could have worked out.
Right.
I
Or would
wonder
it
if
have worked out if XYZ occurred? Well,
you know,
you didn't care about XYZ because you cared about a clock ticking. And there is no clock.
yeah. I mean, so I think fundamentally you have to work through what is it you actually want.
Right.
Is that reasonable for you to ask him to do?
Right.
And vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the timeline?
Right.
Like he can't get a degree tomorrow.
Right.
That's unreasonable.
Right.
Is it enough
Mm-hmm.
for him to legitimately work on it?
Right.
Legitimately try to make the changes? Or are you so far past? Like that's the part you really have to figure out. Are you just at a point where you just can't see him
Right.
as the man you want to be with?
And is your idea of the man you want to be with realistic? Because I'm sorry, you said you used the word fight a number of times in this. Is it because you don't fight? Are you conditioned to think that you fight for relationships?
Yeah, there's a lot of. Well, I think most people are conditioned to the idea that you're supposed to fight for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, there's. I think every relationship has like a moment
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think everything hinges on it.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? I think there's a moment where you have a fight, an actual argument, disagreement,
Mm-hmm.
that can make or break it.
Right.
And that sometimes the best thing is, like you walk away and realize, no, that's really what I wanted.
Right. And the other part of this is there's some things that I'm not hearing in here. Like, what does she consider? This may be an overplayed subject, but what are her acts of love? Is her acts of love being, provided for? And that's what she's not getting here. Or is her acts of love service? Or is her acts of love words of affirmation or touch? Like, there are so many depths of intimacy that she's not even delved into here that it's a little scary.
I mean, very true. Like there's a lot of things here, but there's a lot of things that aren't here, and I think most of those are probably because they're in their 20s.
Right.
And it doesn't sound like, in some ways, this is an economically viable relationship to the point that
Mm-hmm.
like you can really expect a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like if like outside of like words of affirmation,
Right.
like if your love language is like gifts,
Right.
yeah, you're not getting that met.
Yeah.
Like,
if your love language is acts of service, yeah, you can get that met.
But you may not be getting it met in this current iteration. Like,
Right.
until you move in together,
Right.
that may not be as viable
Right.
in a thing. Or you're just so far down the rabbit hole of, am I making a giant mistake on literally, and I'm going to put words in your mouth, some loser? Because, I mean, I'm sorry, the way she talks about him.
Yeah.
You know, teenage dirtbag comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like that overgrown frat boy, like never going to grow up Peter Pan.
Mm-hmm. Which is a very large diagnosis.
You know? But it is kind of how she's talking about him.
Yeah.
And yeah, some girls don't want to be Wendy. Some guys don't want to be Wendy. Being the only adult in the room is a very hard thing to be.
Exactly.
Especially if, you know, you're not really confident in your adultiness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is weird to me. Like, I don't know. I feel like I've been an adult for a couple centuries. But, you know, 28-year-old not being adulty.
I mean, I'm 42. Sometimes I feel like I need an adultier adult. You know what I mean? Like, I've had situations where it's like, I need to talk to an adultier adult. Like someone who's been doing this with a little more experience.
Right.
Because maybe I'm crazy.
Right.
But no, I mean, I think we all go through that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, looking towards experience. But I do think it's really easy for 20-somethings to feel like, am I really adult enough?
Right. And, you know, at 20-something, if you don't know what to do, that's okay. Go do something in a range.
Yeah.
Because I promise you, by the time you're 40, you probably will not be doing the same job.
Probably not. Probably not. But yeah, I think it is sometimes the feeling like we don't have it figured out.
Right.
And sometimes we blame partners even when that's our problem.
Right.
So I would caution her, make sure you're not projecting your feelings about yourself onto him.
Right.
Because you don't want to have the blame and shame.
Right. And you don't want to make a mistake.
Yeah, because I'm not really reading this and getting the feeling that she's doing all that much better than him.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, I would think that if you're going to really bash him from a place of like, look, I got my shit together, you would probably, but you would probably start listing that out. Like, I got my degree, I'm in a professional job, I'm doing, like, I would think you would bring that up.
Right.
And like, this is the disparity, is like, he's delivering pizzas.
Right.
And doesn't really, you know, like, doesn't have a degree or a plan. It's just like, whatever. Is kind of how it would, you know, read a little differently.
Yeah.
But this just sounds like, I don't think he has shit together. Like, he's delivering pizzas.
Right. And while delivering pizzas is a fine job, it may not be the job that she wants. All right. Let's go check the poll.
All righty. Where's our poll at?
You are 100% not the asshole for calling in the cavalry.
What? I don't think anyone's surprised.
Yeah.
That would be a really hard one to be like, oh my God.
It would.
Yeah.
Okay, let's check it. You know, we want to take a moment to thank the Patreons. We will be back Friday on these networks. You may see me over on TikTok. I guess I need to get into the habit of posting a daily TikTok, but also get into the habit of going live over there. Oh, get back up there, y'all guys. Swear, it's just like when I'm trying to put the camera in place, you guys want to hop down.
Oh no. Ipsy zipsy. All right, so Vanna will take it away. So of course we want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda, Joan Owens, Shannon C, Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Charles Shaw, Tracy Van, Caitlin Bell, and Devin. If you'd like to learn more about us, the show, or how you too can become a Patreon sponsor and receive all the wonderful benefits our baristas receive, please visit us at pcspnetwork.com.
Yes. Bye, y'all. We'll see you later.
Bye.